Okay, so on a pre-sale check, so every time before we put this boat in the water, we're going to lift this engine compartment up, we're going to look inside, smell the air and see, do we have any gas fumes? Does it smell like we possibly have a leak? We can look down in this area underneath the engine and see if we have a bunch of water. If we do, we can turn on the bilge pump. Now your pump is automatic as well, so when it hits a certain level it will automatically come on and discharge. But if you see some water, you can turn on the pump. This is our engine oil dipstick, so we can pull this out and check our level. There is a graduated mark on the dipstick as long as we're in that area. So we want to have a look and we want to make sure our engine oil is good. We don't have any issues. We have antifreeze in here. We're good. We don't have any fumes. We don't smell anything like that. So now we can back the boat down into the water. So before we push it off of the trailer, this is where I always talk about my pre-sale check. I'm going to turn on the blower out of habit. I'm going to start the engine. Now while this engine's running, I can put my hands on these manifolds and they should get warm to the touch, but they should never be to the point where you don't want to put your hands on it. So I just take and rub my hand on the manifolds. And what that's telling me is the engine is pumping water. There's proper water circulation through it because these aren't getting hot. You do have sensors on these manifolds that will sound that horn if you don't have any water, but this way it prevents you from heading out, getting away from the dock or away from the boat launch and finding out that you have a problem. So I let the engine run, I take a look, make sure I don't see any water leaking out of either side. I'm happy. Be mindful of the belt. Don't get anything caught or involved in there. Everything's good. We lift this up and we close the engine hatch. Snap it down. So at that point, now we can back it off the trailer. Either roll it off or simply throw it in reverse and drive it off. So if you get into that habit on every first check, every morning, you are not going to be that customer that has a problem at the lake. Because it's still on the trailer. If for some reason your little rubber water pump impeller packed up, anything like that, you're going to notice it because of the heat in those manifolds, in which case you're still on the trailer. It's a matter of just hauling the boat back out. You're not out in the middle of the lake with your family, so you wouldn't have any issues there. So you also notice underneath the engine hatch, we have your stern light. So this is for boating at night. It's the only time you need to use this. It is fairly tall because of bimini tops, things like that. Maintenance wise, so we get into the fall and we get into cold temperatures. So on a stern drive engine, it's important that we drain the water out of the heat exchanger on this engine because the block's filled with fresh water, or with antifreeze, pardon me. It needs to circulate the antifreeze through a freshwater medium to cool it. This is your heat exchanger here. So you can get a dealer to do it. It's really probably more convenient for you. But on the bottom of this heat exchanger is two hoses, and there's two clamps. And this is going to be very difficult to see in this video. You remove those two clamps, pull those two hoses off, and hold them down into the bilge. That will drain all the raw water out of your engine. It's on page 29 in your owner's manual, so if you want to do it yourself, please feel free to do so. So if you brought it to us for winterizing, we're going to give it an engine oil change, we're going to change your fuel filter, we're going to drain the water out of it, we're going to fog the power head, and we're going to fill some antifreeze in the cooling system, in the raw water side of the cooling system, just to make sure that we don't have any issues, as well as do the gear oil. On the front of the engine you have your serial number for your motor, which this one is 408-69477. You also have three components in a stern drive. We have the engine, the transom plate, and we have the drive unit. So your TSK is your transom plate and your drive unit. These numbers are important if you need parts. If you want to buy a part for this engine, the first words out of the parts department's mouth is going to be, what's the serial number of the component? So if you need a piece for your drive, you need this number. If you need a piece for the engine, you need this number. If you had a power trim ram go bad, you would need this number. So that's where they're found, is on this rain hat, as it's called. Your engine oil is filled here. This engine shouldn't burn any real oil. It does talk about in the break-in manual, you have a 20-hour break-in on this engine. Talks about that it may use oil, so we're going to keep an eye on that. But every morning you're going to do your engine oil check when you do your pre-sale check anyway. If you do need to add some oil, any multi-grade 10W30 motor oil is acceptable, which is readily available anywhere. I've yet to see one of these engines use oil, so I really don't believe that you're going to find that. After 50 hours, they recommend that you bring it in and get an engine oil change done and a check. So most customers don't ever see 50 hours in one season. So I firmly believe that after you're finished using this for the year, you get it in, get the maintenance done, you're good for the next year. And if you get into the habit of changing your engine oil and your drive oils and keeping this thing winterized, this thing's going to give you years and years and years of trouble-free service. So again, check your engine oil on your pre-sale check before you even back down into the boat launch. Have a look for any kind of vapor, fumes, leaks. There is also a bilge plug that goes into the back of the boat before you launch it. This plug screws in the back of the boat, and we'll go through that with you when you actually pick up the boat. You just need a flat blade screwdriver. You can leave it in if you like. I store my boat with the plug out and slightly bow up. That way if there's any extra water, condensation, if it's raining and the water leaks through the tarp, it simply just goes out the back of the boat.